Welcome to the section on controls testing. Now that we know what controls are, let us talk about testing of controls. Here are the items that we will address in this section. We will review why do we test controls, the types of controls that we test, the types of tests that we perform, and how to make selections for testing. So in this first lecture here, the question is, why do we test controls? And the main reason is that we test controls to determine if they are fulfilling the purpose for which they were implemented. If a control is not fulfilling the purpose for which it was implemented, then it's ineffective and it may need to be changed. So it's not enough just to say I've designed and implemented controls in the environment. It is absolutely necessary to test those controls periodically to make sure that they are actually performing or doing the work they were implemented to do. And if there are any gaps, then management will need to make the decision on how to change those controls as appropriate. Let's talk about the types of controls that we test. There are two broad categories of controls: IT general controls, or some people may call it general IT controls, and application controls. Application controls are specific to certain business processes that occur in an application, and they are typically based on the client's customization of an application. For example, application controls will be controls over approval limits, authorizations for payment. For example, this person can only approve up to X dollars for payment. Or you could also have authorization to edit specific journal entries or access to run and view specific HR reports. For a regulatory audit, the audit team, the financial audit team that is, they typically identify the application controls that are part of the scope of the audit. So it's important to note that application controls are, I'll call them the business controls that drive the IT general controls that are tested. On the other hand, IT general controls, or you may see them referred to as ITGCs, I may refer to them as that, they are pervasive controls that support the IT environment of the organization, and they impact multiple applications in use by the organization. What does that mean? This means that the IT general controls support the entire IT environment, which includes the specific application that may be in scope for an audit. Generally, the ITGCs, they need to be operating effectively in order for the application controls to be relied upon. Let's talk through an example just to make things a little bit clearer. An IT general control around passwords and access, which we've looked at a few examples in our prior section, because these are for authentication and authorization, they help to ensure that individuals need to be authenticated into the IT environment before they can access systems where they have authorization. If these controls are not operating effectively, meaning many users can access finance applications without proper authentication, and they can access parts of the application without proper authorization, it will be pretty difficult to prove that only authorized users have access to the finance applications. So unauthorized individuals may have access to approved payments in the application because the IT general controls were not effective. So this example goes to show the importance of IT general controls being effective in order for the auditors or those that are testing to rely on this application controls. In the next slide, we'll go through a pictorial example. This slide here is an image that depicts what we just discussed. So you can see here the IT environment is the big circle. The IT general controls over the entire network, servers, database, and applications. The controls are all encompassing, well, I shouldn't say all, but they have a far reach and they're very pervasive. And you can see it covers various application systems that are in scope. However, you can see that each system will have its own specific application controls that are specific to the processes within that application. Depending on which of these systems is in scope for an audit, you first need to test the overall IT environment and see how reliable it is, which would then determine the extent of testing that will be performed on each individual system. So hope this has given you a little bit more clarity on the differences between IT general controls and application controls.